Europeans of Reddit. Is gender identity a major topic of discussion where you live, like in the US? In Eastern Europe it's just a joke. Iceland is accepting, so there never really was a reason to make a big deal out of it. From Eurasian country, olders still not accepting, but new generation don't mind and not putting their nose into others' business. Not really. Apart from the idiotic homophobia which is part of the political rhetoric of both the xenophobic parties and the Socialist Party. Yes, the Bulgarian Socialist Party is anti-LGBT. Because they're simping for Russia. Gender identity is rather simple in Bulgaria. Bulgarian is a gendered language that applies gender to all grammatical structures. So a person cannot speak about themselves without using a grammatical gender. And with Bulgarian grammar being as it is, using the neuter gender is offensive and implying you're not a human being. So, everyone uses either he, him or she, her pronouns, as no other pronouns can be used. Neopronouns are grammatically impossible, and we also have no they, them equivalent. So non-binary people are, well, if they exist. I've never met one. The trans and intersex debate is impossible at this moment because the country has been in a consistent crisis for the last 5 years. So there are far more important things on the agenda than that. Unfortunately, the only people I hear regularly bringing it up are right-wing journalists and commentators. Yeah, in Nordic countries are and many people who are against laws where anyone can just identify themselves legally without actually transitioning, are banned from speaking about it. It's causing really huge gap between parties, and I can only see it becoming much worse in the future. Not really. Most of us have learned long ago to let other people live their own life. We have no interest in being a theocracy. The funny thing is that in America among liberal people it's not a major topic of discussion. It's like no biggie. Do what you want. It's a huge discussion among the right though. Lol. For a group that says they hate transgender people, they sure do love to talk about it. They can't keep it out of their mouth. Not at all. But when it is, it's right-wing politifans talking about it. You didn't ask, but it is growing in importance in Uruguay. It's a cudgely to hit the left over the head. Looking at the interest of such a small minority as people with gender dysphoria is pretty undemocratic if it imposes on the majority. Left makes a case it doesn't. Right a case that it does. The trans debate is pretty big in the UK. In Ireland no one gives a shit. We have bigger problems on our hands. It certainly plays a role here in the Netherlands. Some right-wing try to make it a subject with arguments they oftentimes just copy from the US. Some old, grumpy conservatives complain publicly. We even have 1 or 2 Jordan Peterson types. College professors who refuse to use correct pronouns because, you know, science and stuff. Some yellow press media tries to steer up shit storms to sell some more papers. But most of the people don't care and just play along when necessary. Overall, I am pretty proud of my co-inhabitants. My country is Germany. Netherlands. Not really. Some people talk about it and debate it. Sure. But the general population accepts their fellow country people for what they are and the values they stand for. To each their own, so to say. I think it differs more from country to country than it differs from your state to state. We don't really speak the same native languages or view the same news media. Generally speaking, the more east you go, the less progressive in terms of tolerance against minorities. Or one could say the further away from the coast. It's basically a thing that exists only on the internet. We even use the word gender as an insult to people who act in a certain way. I'm from Germany and yes, and that shit is driving me crazy. We leave that for the English and Americans. We think that gender identity is a mental illness. It's a topic but not the biggest topic at the moment. Currently we're more concerned about our Russian neighbors and what they might be up to. Generally not. People are free to do what they want. Unless you start demanding other change to suit you, it's not a problem. In my workplace, people have started adding their pronouns to digital identifiers like Zoom username and email signature. Both trans, non-binary and also cisgendered people do so. No one seriously complains about trans people or inclusive actions. But there is some research into transphobic stuff online. I live and work in Sweden. Oh. And our toilets. In restaurants, public places and schools are generally not designed to be used by only one gender. Changing rooms at gyms are gender divided. No. I think most of us don't care whether someone wants to be a girl or a boy. It's the main topic of either conservatists or the new generation of far left. Somewhat. Our trans laws suck and changing it was in a fucking limbo for forever. Right-wing governments etc. Actually useless, more left-leaning governments. You name it. So you know, stuff is on the table. Parts of the discussion are not. Our language is superior and there are no gendered pronouns, so we can luckily skip that part. It's mostly progress being made generally, but you know Christians are everywhere spewing their hateful shit. Europe and even Nordics are not an execution.